Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 quick match gameplay. This time around I'm playing as the lizardmen against Dark Elves led by Mermaid Man on the map Wyvern Lake. So completely appropriate for me, I suppose. And yeah, let's see how things break down. So right off the bat, I wanted to do, of course, with lizardmen, as I do believe I mentioned before, usually most people go either very monster heavy or they go pretty heavily into the units that can't rampage, so Temple Guard and Skinks. So I decided to go with kind of that latter choice, and I wanted to give it a shot to basically a rampage-free build, because lately in my previous Lizardman videos I didn't try to make use of Saurus Warriors and those more rampage-pro units. Definitely wanted to try something else here. So my lord, I did bring Krokgar. Krokgar in the current meta is basically the best lord you can bring, and especially against Dark Elves, who you might want a monstrous lord like Krokgar to shut down enemy flying lords and, say, dragons like Malekith, but at the same time you don't necessarily want to have a lord who's really slow and an easy target to be torn apart by dark shards or shades, which of course Dark Elves can bring a lot of. So I did bring Krokgar with Deadly Onslaught, Swiftness of Eitzel, of course, Sacred Spawning of Zodal, as well as Hand of the Gods, which makes him rather tanky, gives him some ability to snipe at enemy lords up in the air, and that sort of stuff. Alongside him, I did bring a King Priest of Beast, mounted on his normal Stegodon. The normal Stegodon is there just to give me that ballista, give me the ability to pressure enemy large targets a little bit, and pressure some high priority ground units, like Blackguard or Cavalry or Chariots or that sort of stuff, with at least have some effect on him. He is coming in with only 2 spells, as well as his ability. He does have his ability here, the Wild Heart, which increases power reserves and increases his power recharge rate. But he also brought Wissen's Wild Form, as well as Flock of Doom, just the cheap, lower-end utility spells, though. And of course, elves do tend to bring some squishy units, like Witch Elves and Bleak Swords or Dread Spears, that sort of stuff, all of which are very susceptible to Flock of Doom. For my front line, 4 units of Temple Guard. These guys, of course, can't rampage. They have charge defense against large, armor piercing, okay melee stats. Neither their melee attack nor their melee defense is all that exemplary, but it's decent. And they have okay armor at 85 with bronze shields. Okay by elite infantry standards, of course. By most infantry standards, that's actually pretty decent. Out on the flanks, I do have 6 units of Skinks with javelins. These guys are there to provide some melee support, but also to dish out some ranged hurt, because even though the ammunition count on the Javs is pretty low, they do have decent damage per projectile, and they can get them off pretty quickly, and then kind of gap close and provide an encirclement and that sort of stuff. Which combined with the terror bombs from the Stegodon and Krokgar and that sort of stuff should definitely help. So I have 6 of them, 3 on each flank, and they've got some veterancy in them. My opponent decided to bring a build that involves Malekith, over here on his dragon. I do believe it's Seraphon, and he came in with a decent amount of spells, though I don't believe he brought in any of his items. I do believe Malekith's items are pretty lackluster, and you will see them pretty rarely, but he did bring Potion of Darkness to increase his or Power of Darkness, sorry, I don't know if I said Potion of Darkness, to increase his magic reserves with some self-damage or damage to some friendly unit. Blade Wind, which is a pretty solid damaging vortex. Doombolt, which is a single target damage spell. A bit inaccurate if your enemy's moving, but if you can keep him locked in place with witches or something, definitely good. And then a single soul sealer here, just to do some even more single target damage. So very single target oriented. Out here, hidden in the woods and already flanking around me, are 3 units of Dark Riders with repeater crossbows. His front line is composed entirely of Bleak Swords. A bit of an interesting pick. You will often see Dread Spears instead, just because of their high melee defense. But Bleak Swords can dish out a lot of hurt as well as tank. So that's most likely why. Trying to hit that balance. 2 units of Blackguard of Nagaron behind him, just to provide some anti-large defense, because of course lizards can pretend to bring a lot of large. And these guys, of course, have actually psychological immunity. One of the few units, if not the only unit, that has psychological. It might actually be. Yeah, they're one of the few units in this game that actually have psychological immunity, which is a bit surprising. The Witches do, but it's because their Frenzy is active. And the Witches, combined with the Death Hagger there, is basically, just as far as I can tell, to shut down an enemy, for example, Krokgar, or a high priority target, and make him a much easier target for, say, Malekith to hit with Doombolt, for example. And then finally, a unit of Cold One Knights, who do, of course, have anti-large. They can rampage, which is definitely a bit of a problem, but they have pretty high HP per model. They have decent armor, uninspiring melee stats, but they do have an anti-large bonus and armor piercing, which will make them pretty powerful. So without further ado, kind of kicking things into high gear, I'm trying to poke down the Witch Elves. They're my highest priority target because they're squishy and they can obviously lock down my Lord in melee, so I want to avoid that. I don't want to have that happen. I have a unit annihilated simply because I'm not able to micro it. I have sniped down a little bit on Malekith's HP, not a lot. I got the ballista land like 2 or 3 hits, which is decent. Now I see these Dark Riders trying to make a run for it, so what I do is I'm shifting my skinks to engage. You can see the Javelins are actually doing a pretty decent amount of work here. You can see the Dark Riders lose about a quarter of their models before they even get into position to fire, and before all is said and done, they're down about a third of their models. And these other Dark Riders do think they get hit by ballista and they start moving back. Now, in the meantime, my opponent's pushing forward, so what I'm doing is, after failing once again to engage with the Skinks, just to poke out the Witches, because they're pretty far back and Skinks only have, I do believe, 80 range, I do push in with the Temple Guards, just trying to surround these guys and get some damage in on them. The Death Hag, unfortunately, does cause terror, so I definitely have to be a little careful about that. Temple Guard do not have immunity to psychology, so that's definitely a bit of a problem. Now, you can see I do throw Croc Guard and getting these Bleak Swords, trying to get a terror out on them. And I also don't want my poor Skinks over here getting tied down, if I can at all avoid. Skinks have very low HP per model, and that's probably their biggest disadvantage. Obviously, their melee stats are not amazing. Over here, you can see the Temple Guard are slugging out with the Witch Elves, I'm trying to poke away at him with the Skinks. In the meantime, Stegadon is slugging it out with the Death Hag. The Death Hag has less HP, but I do believe better melee stats. And of course does apply poison, so it will be debuffing him. So I'm not actually entirely sure how that fight would go in a drawn-out sort of situation. Here I do snipe Malekith a little bit with Hand of Gods, and you can see the Bleak Swords are routing. The Dread Spears the Cold One Knights, have engaged, but that is going to be a pretty disastrous move for him, because despite the fact that Dark Riders are trying to snipe away at Croc Guard, these guys are going to get tied down in melee and absolutely slaughtered by the Temple Guard. I really don't like units that rampage, and that's why, and especially fast units that rely on cycle charging. Over here, in the meantime, I do shift Croc Guard over to go after the Death Hag, and you can see the Javelins are actually tearing through these Witch Elves pretty effectively. Temple Guard are terrible against Witch Elves, but it's not an ideal situation. You can see over here, in the meantime, once again, the Dark Riders have been chased off, and now my opponent is really down to kind of this last cast. I finally remembered to use my spells. I cast Flock of Doom over here on the Witch Elves, trying to wipe them out. Overcast Flock of Doom does quite a bit of damage here. You can see they're melting. And over here, in the meantime, I do pop Cold Blooded on Croc Guard, just trying to keep him tip-top because my opponent is trying to snipe Croc Guard down. Temple Guard do engage on these Black Guard, just trying to block him off. You can see over here, Soul Stealer has hit my Skink Priest, and I make the mistake of pushing him through past the Skink cohort, so they're going to take some damage in the process, I think. Maybe not. In the meantime, though, these Skinks still have a little bit of ammo, so I'm going to be expending it on these Black Guard. The damage per hit, I don't believe it's too terrible. It's 4 armor piercing, so they will do a little bit even to the Black Guard. One of these units gets a little overzealous, in my opinion, goes after Malekith. That was a mistake on my part, allowing to do that. In the meantime, my Skinks are just trying to cut off these weak units as they run out of ammo, such as the Bleak Swords. I don't really want Skinks trying to slug it out with Black Guard. That's not going to work well. That's what I have the Temple Guard in here for. I'm occasionally buffing some of the Temple Guard with Wissen's Wild Form. In the meantime, my Skink Priest of Beast is sniping away at Malekith, just trying to reduce his HP even further. Over here you can see good old Croc Guard is slugging it out with the Witch Elves, who have now been terrified because I did get another very hefty Flock of Doom here, and it's doing quite a bit of damage. Probably not very much to the Black Guard, but definitely a decent amount to everything else. The Skinks aren't doing great. You can see Croc Guard over here I do pop Cold Blood on Croc Guard again, which is a bit of a mistake, but charge him straight into the Death Hag, who is now just going to go down like a 9-pin. Croc Guard, I believe, is going to hit her one more time. There we go. Because his charge bonus helps him there, despite the fact that he's being debuffed by Cold Blooded. And there goes the Death Hag and their Cauldron of Blood. These Bleak Swords are trying to engage, but they're simply going to get terrified almost immediately. My opponent is trying to line Malekith down on the ground, and it's not really working. I do pop Swiftness of Eatsel, because I'm definitely a little worried that I could take some beating here, but honestly, Croc Guard stats, once they're back up to tip-top, he does have a bonus against large, so he's going to hit like a truck, and his leadership's still high, so his frenzy's active, so he will definitely be able to lay the smack down on Malekith if he tries to fight him. Over in the woods, I'm zoning with my lizards. Over here you can see a Blade Wind does go down, doing a bit of damage to Temple Guard, but then kind of just wandering off and not doing that much. Over here the Skink Priest of Beast is still sniping away. I'm simply ignoring these Dark Riders and casting a Flock of Doom on him now. A normal cast because I don't have enough Winds of Magic, I don't believe, to get up Overcast. Over here, Croc Guard just pops Sacred Spawning Zodal and is trying to just chase down Malekith. I no longer have any heals for him, so that's definitely a bit of a problem. But as you can see, the HP difference between him and Malekith is not that big. So between the Skink Priest, Croc Guard, and all these units of infantry I've got on the ground, I should definitely be a-okay. You can see all these units are kind of being terror routed. You can see I'm using my Skinks because I have so many Skinks to chase them away. And at this point, my opponent does simply fall apart for a close victory. Which is, in a quick match, pretty decent. And you can see on the loss chart, the losses were pretty low for my army. Whereas my opponent lost the vast majority of his troops. I did not. I lost about a fifth, not even. You can see the skinks actually raking in a decent amount of kills. It's very important. The javelins are, in my opinion, well worth the 100 points. That's the only difference between skinks with clubs and skinks with javelins. Is that the skinks with javelins have 3 ammo of that does decent amounts of damage. But honestly, it's the amount of work they can do with just those few javelins is actually pretty immense. You could see in that game how the Dark Riders got zoned off pretty heavily. They lost, one of the units lost about a third of their models. And skinks are pretty dirt cheap. They're only 400 point unit. Granted, I threw some points of veterans in because I had some leftover stuff, but they definitely raked in some decent amount of kills. Obviously, most of the heavy lifting in that game was done by the Temple Guard, backed by the terror routes from good old Krokgar. Blackguard and Aggron obviously do have immunity to psychology, which makes them one of the only units with immunity to psychology in the game. They actually might be the only one that just has a built-in immunity to psychology. Because I don't believe Phoenix Guard have immunity to psychology, and I don't think any of the High Elf infantry actually does at all. So I think that they might be the only ones who, without causing fear or terror themselves or frenzy, who are psychological immunity. So that definitely makes them a bit of trouble for lizardmen who could otherwise surround him and just break him. You could definitely see the problem with rampage though in that game, where the granted the witch elves caused my temple guard to one of my units temple guard to rampage, but that was irrelevant because temple guards are so tanky. But and the witch elves weren't able to bypass them. But you can see the Cold One Knights just fell apart pretty horribly. They got tied down by Temple Guard, and that was that. So that's definitely, I think, a major problem with units that have rampage in it. So I generally try to avoid using them. It's also why witch elves are very powerful, because even one unit of them can potentially cause the death of a high priority target just by tying it down. But yeah, great game to my opponent. I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. If you have any comments, criticism, any questions about Total War Warhammer 2 gameplay, or Warhammer 1 gameplay for that matter, be sure to post those down in the comments, and I will respond as soon as I can. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.